Can you see my slide now?
Yes, Professor, we can see your screen. Please carry on.
Okay. A very good afternoon to you from Switzerland. I'm currently in Zurich. I really wanted to be in Accra, but I wasn't able to make it. I want to thank the organizers, as the Foundation Africa, Accra Technical University, for this wonderful privilege. Is my video on? I'm not quite sure if my video is on, but if not, we can proceed. So I'll be speaking very quickly this afternoon on leveraging emerging technologies for youth employment in Africa. And very quickly, I would the presentation outline, I would begin by almost everybody wants to start with statistics on Africa's youth population, and I will do just that, and then I will just unpack the current nature of the skills gap, and then we will quickly delve into the emerging technologies that can be deployed in this context to combat unemployment. Specifically, we'll be focusing on technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, right? And after which we would unpack the ability of these technologies to serve as leapfrogging technologies or leapfrogging elements, and then we'll do a very high-level requirement analysis, and then what I believe to be necessary for an implementation. That's an implementation roadmap, after which I will just very briefly talk about a few case studies that we are trialing in South Africa in collaboration with our partners in Switzerland, and then I would just after that I will conclude the presentation. Very briefly, I think it's worth mentioning that and I wouldn't want to belabor the topic in terms of statistics of increasing youth population in Africa, but what I just wanted to highlight here is that the numbers are rapidly increasing, right? It's there now, and then it's expected that in the next 25 years, it's also going to be worse if cogent actions are not taken to, in a sense, stem the tide, right? So now, in essence, the numbers of youths that we introduce into the workforce, right, is steadily increasing, and we're not able to create enough jobs to serve these youths. That's what just need to be said. There are a lot of infographics here. I wouldn't delve into that for the sake of time. Now, what is the implication of this from a skills perspective, right? What this means is that we are not doing at par with our competitors, because the world is now competitive. The world is now a global village, right? We are not able to, in a sense, compete in terms of in the education space, right? Tertiary education only about 40% complete. In terms of TVET, I know that there is a huge focus on TVET for this conference. It's also quite low, right? It's actually even difficult. I struggle to get the statistics from an African perspective, and then it's difficult to get that accurately and then surmise that to be under 5%. Digital literacy is also low, and then all of these factors contribute to giving us a huge quantum of youth unemployment, which is arguably one of the highest in the world. Again, that statistics we need to create. We have a shortfall of roughly about 10 million jobs, right, that we need to, in a sense, fill. What are the implications, right? There are a couple of implications, but these implications can be categorized as either those that pertain or restrict economic growth and productivity, those that affect, okay, by economic growth and productivity, I mean industries will struggle to find qualified workers, and now there exists a mismatch between education and job market needs, which leads to underemployment and unemployment. Then there's also the elements of social stability, right? Instances of and unemployment can lead to unrest and instability. And then as people become, quite unhappy with their circumstances, and then perhaps also might also lead to criminal participation, right? Entrepreneurial potential, the limited access to relevant education and training, in a sense, stifles entrepreneurial potential, right? And then what also happens is that we're not able, this is also tied, entrepreneurial potential is also tied with economic growth and productivity, right? Because then folks would either go into highly trained professionals, or they'll explore the entrepreneurial bent. And then what is also necessary to state is that this problem is also exacerbated amongst women, right? And the skill gap affects young women, right? As historically they have access to less training opportunities compared to young men. So what are we losing out here from this perspective? And that's what I stated here. If we get it right, our youth can actually boost our economy by about 500 billion annually, some World Bank estimates, right? And then if we get the youth population right, we can also enhance their spending capacity, right? That would, of course, have a multiplier effect on society, the African society as we know it. So how then can emerging technologies help in this space? And I often try to, and I don't have time for it, I often try to ask people in the audience, what do you really, when we say emerging technologies are, in a sense, technologies of the 4IR, what do folks understand by an IR, that's by an industrial revolution? And in essence is basically advances in technology, right, that change the way society operates. And we have had 3 industrial revolutions, and then we are currently at the cusp of the 4th, right? The key element, or the key identity, for want of a better word, of Industry 4.0 or of these technologies are cyber-physical systems, right? And then cyber-physical systems, essentially, I wouldn't want to go into a technical definition, but they are systems where the cyber and physical elements are tightly intertwined, right? And then you can, in a sense, control the physical elements with cyber tools. And it has a host of applications, several applications, but I wouldn't delve into that. But what I want to hammer on here is that these emerging technologies, or these technologies of the 4IR, can be classified broadly into 2 categories. That's as either cyber or physical technologies. Cyber are the software or the non-tangible or the non-hardware aspect technologies, including ML, big data and data analytics, AI, blockchain technology. And then the physical technologies include IoT, 3D printing, robotic systems, and biotechnology, right? There's some academics don't necessarily agree. Some folks feel now that biotechnology, nanotechnology should also have their own classification. But my thinking is that they also qualify as physical technologies. So now, the point I want to make at this stage is that if we get it right, basically, emerging technologies can serve as a catalyst, right, to enable us to leapfrog in terms of development. Leapfrogging technologies in this sense refer to the ability, I know folks from the development space will understand, where technologies help regions to bypass traditional stages of development and rapidly advance into more advanced stages. Right. The point needs to be made that emerging technologies can help us African youths leapfrog traditional development stages by providing access to information and services. We know we're all commerce now with mobile phones and then the internet, right? It can also help us in terms of accelerating development in the infrastructure space. Think of how these technologies can also help with infrastructure in terms of renewable energies, mobile payment systems. And this also has the effect of fostering economic inclusion, right? Fintech solutions and blockchain solutions, right, can also help move people more into the formal sector, right? Education and skills development, e-learning platforms, digital educational resources, right? Also advanced remote learning, healthcare access, can spur the possibility of you think about telemedicine, mobile health applications that can extend access to hitherto remote areas, improving access for medical treatments and the rest, agricultural innovation, smart infrastructure. I wouldn't want to go through everything chapter by verse, but it has the potential to permeate every sector of society. Think about governance and civic engagement. You could conceivably deploy some of those technologies to enhance think about blockchain in the voting space. It could enhance the democratic process and spur increased participation. So these technologies have the potential to enable us leapfrog our prior challenges in the development space. I would want to point out here, and then I think I made the characterization that these emerging technologies can be strategically deployed to actively provide or produce highly skilled professionals. All right, and now highly skilled professionals can either refer to those that go through the route of tertiary education, or those that go through, or that's university education, or those that go through TVET, right? And then these emerging technologies also present opportunities in the entrepreneurial domain. I would just highlight a few because there are a host of emerging technologies. I just basically highlighted two cyber tools as AI and blockchain, and then two physical technologies as IoT and biotechnology, right? And then the possible routes, right, that or this possible openings or avenues that highly skilled professionals can play in this space. There is demand for, because Africa is not necessarily insulated from some of these trends. There's a burgeoning growth in these sectors, right? And then there is need for a skilled workforce in all of those places that has the potential to spur economic growth, right? Also in terms of entrepreneurial opportunities, AI startups, tech incubators, right? You have fintech solutions, supply chain innovations. Now I'll talk about what we are doing here. And then what I wanted to specifically highlight is that we should not necessarily look at emerging technologies as the end goal, for want of a better word, right? Emerging technologies also have the capacity to enable hitherto traditional sectors like agriculture, right? It can also enable or enhance hitherto traditional sectors like manufacturing, for instance, right? And so the thinking or the argument I'm making is that emerging technologies should not be an end in and of themselves, but in spite of as a leapfrogging tool, we should also be able to leverage them to also enable developments in the agricultural space, to solve our infrastructure problems, right, to also solve our healthcare problems and the rest. So these are examples of entrepreneurial opportunities perhaps that can be leveraged using emerging technologies. And then I did search about current initiatives that are leveraging emerging technologies for youth employment in Africa. And then I developed a taxonomy for these initiatives. They fall broadly into skill development and training programs. Right, you think about Andela's training program and job placement. You think about the Soronko Academy. Then you also have job matching platforms, right? They have the Harambee Youth Employment Accelerator, very popular in South Africa. It's basically just provides or matches those that do need a job with the available skill sets. Then you have entrepreneurship support programs, right? You think about Tune Elumelu Foundation, and you think about MEST in Ghana. Then you also have initiatives that try to foster digital financial inclusion, M-Pesa in Kenya, agricultural innovations, Twiga Foods in Kenya. And then you now have initiatives that try to foster innovation hubs. There are several of them spread across the African continent. And then you also have sterling examples of public-private partnerships. Now, this current programs are good, but it's obvious now that there is still the need to increase or to scale up these programs. And I try to come up with what I believe are requirements or prerequisites for initiatives or discussions to scale up the various taxonomies that we have in a bid to solve the problems that we're currently facing. Right, there is need to create an enabling environment for innovation and growth in a much more on a much more wider scale. Right, government need to get the right supportive policies, streamline regulations, promote digital inclusion. Infrastructure development is key, right? I've often been asked, why do we talk about the fourth industrial revolution when people are still struggling to access broadband, right? Data is still an issue. Electricity is still an issue. Transport and logistics is still an issue, and it's the truth. We need this infrastructural backbone in a sense to also accelerate the emerging technologies and to increase their penetration. All right, there's also the need for increase and a much more well thought out public-private partnership approach, right? Such that we can also have much more shared infrastructure. And I'll talk about a pilot that we're running in South Africa using shared infrastructure between the public and the private sector. And then very importantly, in this space, there is need to integrate emerging technologies in education and training. I've been following some of the conversations, especially the panel session, where the point was made now that curriculum development is key, and then vocational training is also important, right? And that vocational training should be much more widespread, right? And then folks should really go out in industry to get much more detailed training. And then I would just like to touch briefly, and I know that there will be experts, but the dual vocational education and training programs in Switzerland, in countries like Germany, right, have proven to be very, very effective, and then have also proven to be a significant means of curtailing unemployment, where basically they integrate education and work experience, right, and then ensures now that the students acquire relevant skills that are directly applicable in the job market. Right. I think I should also bet the point is also that the government also plays a role there by providing critical incentives, right? So in terms of financial incentives, right, such that companies have some economic benefit, right, in getting the learners and the students, right, and then this also empowers small and medium-sized enterprises that otherwise would have been unable to glean these opportunities to be able to, because of the incentives of the government, to be able to onboard this kind of students, and then it's a win-win situation. So I think I did hear the minister's representative mentioning about some key initiatives in this regard. I think it's something that really needs to be extended and deepened in other countries. There's also the opportunity or the possibility for cross-border vocational training. So you could conceivably go to another nation. You could even come to South Africa. South Africa is also a party to that. And then you could now, in a sense, get that form of vocational training and expertise, right? And then industry partnerships, we need patient academic capital. I heard Professor Amevi speaking about the fact that there are still some requirements from the technical university's perspective in a bid to get them to commercializing their solutions. We'll just talk about that space of patient academic capital, right, would help in transforming the university innovation system such that that capital can help in moving patents to either licenses or startups, and then it can now provide an easier route to the market, right? We need to also focus on key economic sectors, going back to my point of emerging technologies and aligning them for Africa, right? I talked about the fact that emerging technology should not be an end to itself, but they should enable key economic sectors, manufacturing, agriculture, energy, and areas that we have significant challenges in Africa. And in the monitoring and evaluation space, there is need to deploy effective monitoring and evaluation strategies for these projects. Okay, an implementation roadmap. It's always first to start with a pilot project, secure funding from government agencies, and then carry the local organizations and institutions along. So you're not just transplanting policies and programs, and then they also work together in establishing key hubs and then monitor and evaluate the process that you have deployed. So now this philosophy we have implemented in collaboration with our Swiss partners, right? We recently, 2 years ago, we won a chair between the South African and the Switzerland governments in blockchain technology. And one of our key mandates is to build capacity in this technology, which is an emerging technology, not just for research purposes, but also for what I mentioned, getting highly skilled professionals, and also getting folks that have an entrepreneurial bent. And then we have organized several boot camps, right, across over the past year, and we've trained roughly about under 1,000 students on blockchain technology. And we've also been able to pioneer a couple of innovations, blockchain for document management, developed our own generative AI in the South African language, right, and helps for a host of other features. And all of this has been done with the cohort and the folks that we have trained, and they have launched a couple of these entrepreneurial endeavors, HydroPredict, Contract AI. These are folks that we basically taught from the scratch, and then they've been able to, run along with the vision. The point I made, which I'm harping on, is emerging technologies being used to drive development to leapfrog in other areas. So we're currently there's an ongoing pilot where we're using blockchain, IoT, and AI for agro processors, right? So it's a case study of very young agro processors in one of the provinces in South Africa, in Limpopo, who because they basically make these their agro materials or their agro food stuff, they basically make it at home, And we're like, how can blockchain help them to quality control their food produce? How can it also help them to access the market? And so we came up with a shared facility. Partners, the University of Johannesburg and our Swiss partners, Small Enterprise Finance Agency in South Africa, and then some provincial organizations. And then what we essentially set out to do was to get these 22 SMEs and this is the various products that they produce. I wouldn't go through them chapter and verse, but what we said is, this is a couple of the agro processors. What we said is now that using the concept from emerging technology like shared spaces, tech hubs, and the rest, can we deploy that same concept for these emerging agro processors and ensure now that they split costs and all of that? And then they are now also able to use these emerging technologies to ensure now that they meet all the various food compliance requirements. And so we grouped all of the produces that they produce into several groups, into 7 groups, basically. Right, and then came up with requirements, space requirements, energy requirements, water requirements, food safety requirements, and other allied requirements. And then the tech-enabled aspect is we also detailed it, how IoT and blockchain can help in this space. All right, and then we went out to seek funding, did a bankable feasibility study, and from our analysis from this concept, we're going to be able to create at least 80 direct jobs and slightly under 300 to 500 indirect jobs, right? And now these are folks that without this setup, without the system, they will not have been able to get by all the various food compliance regulations. They will not have been able to access the markets, the formal market, right? But we are able to use emerging technologies, in this case, IoT and blockchain, to provide the pathway for these folks, young ones, to be able to access the market. So that's just an example of a pilot we're currently running. And then in summary, for the sake of time, what the point I'm trying to make is that emerging technologies can be a game changer. Because it's an academic audience, we need to integrate these technologies in our education and training programs, right? We can learn from the case study of Switzerland and Germany and some of the European countries where there is vocational training that is subsidized by the government. So that's where you have the government and industry support. There are incentives for SMMEs to onboard the students. They get tax breaks and the rest. And then there's also, they also widen the market. So there's now cross-national collaboration and mobility, which is something that the various regional blocks in Africa can perhaps consider making exemptions for the youth for such a kind of program. So there's also the need to think carefully about synergistic collaboration strategies that can scale the existing initiatives, that can make them more accessible, and then can make these programs more sustainable. Only doing so are we going to be able to make a dent on the significant number of unemployed youths we have in Africa. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.